When you go and make a massive film about Herobrine and get a lot of views on it, you get a lot of people asking for more. So you go and make more! If you don't know, my name is LouiMezDez and I have a past of making Minecraft films and stories and all sorts of things. And today I'm here to talk about a series that I made earlier this year called Warden of the Gateway. Well, it was meant to be a movie, it was meant to be a series, there's a lot to talk about here. But the main reason I'm here is to reflect upon why my series was good, but not amazing. Now, before I get really harsh and critical on myself, I've also got to give myself some props, because at the end of the day, it's not easy to make a full-on series that actually has an ending, and the time and effort I put into this every single day for a year and 4 months is definitely some damn commitment. So good job, Mr. Mezdez. Now, as a whole, it was truly amazing to make. We had a lot of people working on it, and I really do believe we made a jolly good Minecraft series. But like everything, there's always room for improvement. And I think the biggest problem I had with this series looking back is the storytelling. I know, the most important thing of all. Now, don't get me wrong, we had some good character arcs, but we also had some really bad ones, and pointless ones. If anything, this series suffered to a lot, and I mean a lot of plot holes. So let's go through them. Far too many characters. My god, when I tell you that we had 40 characters, not even in total, not including the extras, my mind goes bloody crazy. Now, I can't lie, I think I tried to be really clever with the way I handled this, as we had a lot of characters from Herobrine movie and the side stories we were bringing anyway. But then when we made a bunch of new characters to fit in with them, it just did not make it any simpler. But this also goes to me being way too nice in real life and just saying yes to every single voice actor that has to be in it. That is a lesson I have definitely learned from, and I will not be doing again. So yeah, having that many characters is not that helpful for your storytelling. If anything, if I was to remake that series right now, half those characters wouldn't even exist. It was just a stupid idea to have that many characters, as it made me make so many pointless story arcs and prevented so many amazing ideas from happening. If I didn't have that many characters, I definitely would have had more development for other characters, and it would have gave more people stuff to do. Not just that, but it just made characters more irrelevant. Like, did we really have to have a massive group on the SP11? I mean, we could have just had Jake, Bradley, and Ricky go on the SP11. That would have made things more simpler. I definitely shouldn't have had the amount of characters that I did. It just prevented so much stuff. Another big plot hole we had in this series was definitely the relationship between Jake and April. I mean, what was that? It started off so well in episode 1 and then it just didn't go anywhere. This also links back to there being too many characters, because before we had that many characters, April was meant to have a lot more to do. It's just so annoying to look back on, because we had that amazing establishment of both their feelings, and then there was just no build-up after that. It just became, oh, yeah. By the way, feelings, yes. Like, make it make sense. Build it up more. God's sake. If anything, there's a character I would remove to make April make more sense. Jake's sister, Lucy, I would have just got rid of her character and just made that character become more of April's character. That way, we could have had the Warden kill April instead of Lucy, and then it would have still made sense with Derek making the whole, I know how you feel, I've been there. Like, it would have just been so much better. It also would have just made more sense, because Derek has lost Alice, who also fell to her death, and then if we had April fall to her death like Lucy did, we could have related it a lot more, because for Derek, Alice was the love of his life, and with Jake, if there was any love there in the first place, which there wasn't, but if we had that, it would have just related so much more, because then they both would have lost something and lost it the same way, and then Derek could have been the therapist that he tried to be with Lucy, but it just did not work. Actually, I take that back. If anything, one thing that we really did well with Warden was the way how we did everyone's death. Like, there was not too many deaths, and each death was for a good reason, and each death actually kind of hurt. Like, for example, Lucy's death, that actually did hurt people, but it would have hurt even more if it was April and Lucy didn't exist. I think that would have been a much better way of doing it. Another issue I had with Warden was the way I wrote Jake's parents. I had way too many inside jokes, and it did not make that much sense to anyone watching. Jake's parents were written really badly, and if anything, they were more relatable to my life and also another cast member's life, and it did not make a lot of sense to the audience. What I mean by this is that Jake's parents should have been a lot more like actual parents, whereas for me, writing parents is not that easy. Without going into too much detail, my family are very, they make a lot of sex jokes, which meant I ended up writing Jake's parents off my experience of growing up, which was not a good idea, as a lot of people were very scared from terms such as feeding the pony. We also had the dad based off one of the cast members' actual dads, and yeah, no, it was not a good idea to relate the character to that, because it didn't make any sense, and it was just a big inside joke, and it just made it way too confusing. So in future, I definitely would have either not included the parents or wrote them a lot more like actual parents, but I'm gonna have to do my research on that. Another thing I was disappointed at looking back at this series was the character Zoe. We had an amazing character arc for Zoe. She was meant to be this funny character that every time you see her, she has a new accent, and it's just like, why have you changed her accent? And there's literally no context to it. It was going to be such a good character. The only issue was the voice actor doing it. We didn't think about the fact that they, no disrespect, couldn't do multiple accents. So the way we should have fixed this is either make her not have different accents or recast the character with someone who could actually do multiple accents. It also got to points where you just couldn't even understand what the character was saying, which no disrespect to the voice actor Kiana, she would definitely agree with me if she heard this right now. But yeah, if I was to do this again, I would have definitely kept Zoe at that American accent, or I would have got Kiana to work on the accents, or I would have found someone who could actually do different accents. Again, no disrespect to Kiana, she really tried her best, and, you know, trial and error, you know? She just needs to work on it, and she knows that. And now moving on to probably one of the biggest plot holes of all, David being the Warden. For those of you that don't know, the Warden was the main villain of the Warden series, and he was the man behind the mask, the man to be revealed at the end. From the start, you're questioning who it is. Who could it be? You've got all these characters. Who could it be? And sometimes the answer can be quite disappointing. The problem with this is that it made sense. There was a red herring, but it just didn't have a lot of meaning. The way I did the whole Warden storyline could have been better in the first place anyway, but just having the character it was did not make it any better. If anything, it was just boring. It was just a boring reveal. The actor of David was such an amazing voice actor, but this is something else I just did not build up enough. So we had a red herring, it made sense. David was a character that people were least expecting, and it made a lot of sense, like how the hell did he get to this control room? How did he not get killed by the Amino Rangers and all of that? There was so many questions that like people would have had that would have made so much sense going back, but when you've made a massive story like this, coming back from Herobrine movie, and then you've got all these side stories, and then you've got a whole series as well to all build all of this up, and then it just becomes a character that was only just made in the series, and there wasn't a lot of development with it, it kind of killed it. A lot of people, especially the cast, were very disappointed that the Warden wasn't someone from Herobrine movie or from the side stories, because there would have been a lot of meaning and development for the main characters, but it was very hard to pick someone from that era because there was not a lot of options, and the options that we had, there was reasons why we couldn't do it that way, and I just didn't have those ideas at the time. Also, some people just didn't remember who David was when he was revealed. They were like, oh, who's that again? And then they realised, oh wait, yeah, it's the guy from the prison. Like even that just goes to show how like undeveloped it was and how bad it was to pick David as the Warden. I mean, I think the performance that David had in the final episode saved it, but it still just didn't work. I definitely would have made it better. I would have picked a Herobrine character to do that. If anything, I would have made it better. I would have made David's character more developed. If I really wanted to, I would have just made David like a character back in Camelot times and have there a reason. The point was we needed the Warden's character to have a reason to hate Derek so much, and the only people we really could have picked were people that were already dead. We could have had Andrew, Alice's dad, but he died. We could have had Ollie. He had massive hatred for Derek, but he died. Some people also said that we could have had Declan as the Warden, as we never actually saw Declan die in the treehouse in Herobrine movie, but why the hell would Declan become the Warden? Like, there's no reason for him to become the Warden. And I would say we could have had Morgana because she hated Derek, but at the end of the day, like, we only just really brought her in with the side stories, and she mentioned the Warden straight away, so it wouldn't have had any special meaning to it. The point was we wasted it, and we made the Warden, this massively built-up mystery, a bit of a shambles. And I could have just had a bit more of a better story than the Warden wanting Derek's heart, because it kind of just didn't really have that thing to it. And we could have done more. We could have done so much more with it, but there we go. It's all been done now. It just could have been better. Overall, a positive of the story is that I kind of noticed that, really, the Warden series should actually just be called Derek's story. We've had all these side stories, we've had Declan's story, we've had Gregory's story, we've had everyone's story, but this one was really Derek's story. We've had Derek come such a long way from Herobrine movie, and well, he lost everyone. All his friends, the love of his life, he lost everything. Whereas this series was a lot of closure for Derek, as it was his time to follow them. It was his time to have his happy ending and be with the people he loved. And that's something I'm really proud of, because although I had all these bad character arcs and developments and all of that, there was one character who had the best development out of all of this, and that was Derek. If anything, the Warden series has something that a lot of series lack, and that is the perfect ending. It was the end of Derek's story, and it was just great. Oh, it was great. I'm really proud of it, if you can't tell. So as a Minecraft series, we smashed it. I'd rate it an 8 out of 10, a very solid 8 out of 10. For storytelling wise, I would rate it a 5 out of 10. Probably even a 4. Maybe a 4 would be more understandable. There was just too many characters, irrelevant storylines, and a lot of build-up and hype with the outcomes not being as good as people thought. If anything, I feel like I have a lot to prove, because there's a lot of stuff that I wrote terribly that I know I can write better, and that I have wrote better before. So whatever I write next, whatever films or stories I make, if I ever do make another Minecraft roleplay again, which I very much doubt, it is my job to prove to everyone that I can do those things. I know I can do it, I've just had a bad attempt, and that's all it is. I had a lot of fun making that series, I met brilliant people, and no matter how many plot holes there were, I still wouldn't change the memories I made. That's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this review. Go watch the series if you haven't, and stay mezzing.